Good morning, students. Hope you will be fine at your respective places. Today we are going to start a new topic, and that topic is called as the translation. Now, what we mean by this translation? This translation is the phenomena of this, the process of this transpiration. It simply involves the transport of amino acids. It simply involves the transport of amino acids from an intracellular space, intracellular pool to ribosomes as when these amino acids they are transported from an intracellular pool to the ribosomes, which are then where they are assembled rather into polypeptide chains, and which are then again these polypeptide chains which are then assembled into protein somewhere in the what we call as a protein elsewhere in the cytoplasm. So what we will see, what do we mean by this translation? Translation simply involves the transport of amino acids from an intracellular pool to the ribosomes, where they are assembled into polypeptide chain. So these amino acids they are from entered to the ribosomes. When these amino acids are transported to the ribosomes, in the ribosomes these are what we will call as assembled into polypeptide chains, and then these polypeptide chains they are again what we call as the assembled to into proteins elsewhere in this cytoplasm. Now simply हम कहेंगे कि these amino acids they are transported, these amino acids they are somewhat scattered in the cell, and these amino acids they are taken from the cytoplasm to the ribosomes, where they are assembled into the polypeptide chains, which in turn are again these polypeptide chains they are again assembled to form these what we call as the into proteins. Now जो भी हम देखते हैं कि these transfer of these or transport of these amino acids to the ribosomes, to the ribosome surface, it is accomplished by tRNA. So the transport of amino acids to the surface of ribosomes is accomplished by tRNA, and this transport it takes place in several stages, in various steps or various stages. Now there are what we call as 5 major stages. There are mainly 5 major stages, and what are those 5 major stages in this translation process? We will try to discuss one by one. I will first repeat this. What do we mean by the translation? It simply involves the transport of amino acids from an intracellular pool to the ribosomes, where they are assembled to the polypeptide chain, which in turn are assembled to the proteins. Now what we will see that the transfer of these amino acids to the surface of ribosomes is accomplished by the tRNA. We can simply call it as a transfer RNA, and it occurs in several stages. अब जो major what we call as the steps which are involved in the process of the translation are: What are those various steps which are involved in this? First one, activation of amino acids. First step is activation of amino acids. Now, these amino acids, they are somewhat scattered in this cytoplasm. Now, what we will see, how these amino acids are being activated. This reaction is brought about by the binding of amino acids with ATP. So this activation of amino acids, how these amino acids can be activated so that they can be converted into the polypeptide chain. So what we will see, this whole process, this activation of amino acids जो हम देखते हैं, या this reaction जो हम कहते हैं, it is brought about by binding of amino acids with ATP molecule, and this step, this binding of amino acids with ATP, it requires enzyme, and that name of this enzyme is amino acyl synthetase. So this binding of amino acids with ATP, it takes place with it requires enzymes, and those enzymes are called as amino acyl synthetases. Now, due to this reaction, जो amino acids होते हैं, due to this reaction, amino acids, अगर मैं reaction लिख लूंगा, due to this reaction, what we will see, amino acids and adenosine triphosphate, or simply why we wrote as ATP, which are mediated, which are catalyzed by this amino acyl synthetases, yeah, amino acetyl, what we call as amino acyl enzyme complex. What we will see, this whole reaction, that is this enzyme, which is this amino acyl synthetases, it gives rise to AA, AMP, enzyme complex, enzyme complex plus PP, pyrophosphate. This PP is pyrophosphate. So what we have discussed in this activation of the amino acids, this whole reaction of this whole reaction that is brought about by binding of amino acids with ATP. This step, it requires enzymes called amino acyl synthetases. Due to this reaction, जो amino acids होते हैं and adenosine triphosphate, they are mediated by the above these enzymes, and they are mediated by the above enzyme, and what we will get the form amino acyl. This is actually, I will write this full form, amino acyl, this whole, this complex, this is called as amino acyl AMP enzyme complex is formed, and again we will see this pyrophosphate is released. Now ये भी याद रख लेना आप, this very much important, this amino acyl synthetase, this amino acyl synthetase enzyme, what we will see, they are specific, they are specific with various amino acids. These amino acyl synthetases, they are specific with various amino acids. So this was the first step. What happens in this? Now second step हमारा. First step जो हमारे पास था, that was the translation, this activation of amino acids. Second step which we have, that is transfer of amino acids to tRNA. Transfer of amino acids to tRNA. Now जो हमारे पास क्या बन जाता है, amino acid AMP enzyme complex which is formed in the activation जो हमने देखा. This amino acyl AMP, what we call amino acyl AMP enzyme complex formed, it reacts with, ये किससे react करता है, it reacts with specific tRNA. This complex, enzyme complex, it reacts with what we call as the specific transfer RNA, reacts with specific tRNA. अब जो amino acid जो है, it is transferred to this tRNA. So what we will get the reaction like this. What will be our reaction? Our reaction will be like this. This amino acid, ये इसके साथ ये होगा AA tRNA plus AMP plus enzyme complex plus enzyme complex. So in the second step, what happens? The transfer of amino acid to tRNA. The amino acid AMP enzyme complex जो होता है, जो form होता है in the first step, it reacts with the specific tRNA. Here we will see जो amino acid जो होता है, it is transferred to this amino acid, it is transferred to this tRNA. As a result, what we will see, जो enzyme होता है and AMP, they are liberated. अब जो enzyme जो होता है और this enzyme complex या enzyme जो है and this AMP, they are liberated. ये अलग हो जाता है, ये enzyme जो है ये अलग हो जाता है. Now it does not remain the complex, ये अलग हो जाता है. So हम इस तरह लिखेंगे, यहाँ पर हम लिखेंगे AMP plus यहां पर हम क्या लिखेंगे, एंजाइम, वो अलग हो जाते हैं and they are liberated. So in the translation step, what happens? First one is the activation of the amino acids. This reaction जो होती है, it is brought about by binding of an amino acid with ATP. First step हम क्या देते हैं, amino acid, it reacts with the ATP. And this enzyme, it requires and this whole reaction, it requires an enzyme that is called as amino acyl synthetases. Due to this reaction, what we will see, this amino acid जो होता है and adenosine triphosphate, which are mediated by this enzyme, they form this amino acyl AMP enzyme complex, and also pyrophosphate is liberated. Now in this second step, what we will see, this transfer of amino acid to tRNA takes place. Now what we will see, जो AMP enzyme complex formed, it reacts with this specific tRNA. In the second step, what we see, it reacts with a specific tRNA, and what we will see, amino acid tRNA AA, what we will see, AAT, amino acid transfer tRNA. As a result, what we will see, this AMP and this enzyme, they are liberated. So this was the first two steps in the process of translation. In the third step, which we will discuss later on, that is how the initiation of the polypeptide chain takes place. This was all about today's topic. In the next video, we will proceed further and we will try to discuss how what we will see, the initiation of polypeptide chains takes place. Until then, goodbye. God bless you. Thanks.